Hello, welcome to another video. We're at Frankfurt Airport today and we're going to Miami on board this 747-8. We've just made it here from Heathrow on a connecting flight. Video about that story already on the channel, so be sure to check that out. We've just called boarding, so let's go get on board and let's find out what it's like for 10 hours on the ride over to Miami today. 4S security check passed and we can get on board. There are 364 seats on board this aircraft. In the nose you'll find 8 first class seats, followed by the main business cabin. There's a total of 80 business class seats on board and that's split between the main and upper decks. We're boarding through door L2 and this is where the staircase is located and just ahead of the second and slightly more intimate business class cabin. Feels spacious, doesn't it? Bizarrely, economy is split with these 36 seats in a mini cabin, which I'd avoid here due to poor light with fewer windows. That's then followed by premium economy with 32 seats in a 242 layout. The rest of the 208 economy seats in a 343 layout following up, taking up the remainder of the aircraft. The overhead lockers are bloody massive. I can fit my rucksack in here upright. On the seats we have a fairly thin blanket and there's a fairly sorry excuse for a pillow, but at least both are provided. Legroom is fairly good in this middle seat that I'm in. I can use the full width of the seat in front of me. On the window side though, there is an IFE box which does restrict your foot wiggle room a fair bit. The IFE screen is super adjustable and has a fairly good tilt. We'll cover more on that later on. And as with a fair few other airlines, the tray table splits in two for drinks and there's a cup holder there as well. Boarding complete and let's head to the active runway and take a look at those huge wings with a wingspan of 68 metres. Let's spool those GE NX engines and unleash their mighty power to get into the sky. Airborne out of Frankfurt and first up is a drinks service. Naturally, heading on my holidays, I went for a beer. Beck's, I'll be honest, isn't my favourite. It's a little gassy for me and a little bit gassy in flight. Okay, so about an hour and 40 into the flight now, it's just started getting a little bit bumpy. Pretty good so far. We've had our first meal service. We had a pasta with a bit of sauce with it, a side salad, bread roll, a brie bite, and a little slice of lemon cake. Everything came on a single tray with the hot meal wrapped in foil, which did prove a little bit challenging to remove. I don't recall there being a choice of meal, but a very nice addition is the metal cutlery. That's a first for me in economy. Let's tuck in and see what it's like. Well, it's hot, tastes pretty good and is fairly filling, as you can see from my satisfied "this is good" face. The side salad was also a welcome addition and I managed to polish that off as well. Again, the Lufthansa branded cutlery really is a nice touch. I managed to get myself more or less 2 because someone didn't want all this, so I'm feeling pretty good. I did manage to slop it down my top though, as you can see from the orange stains here. Serves you right, Jamie, for having the seconds when you didn't need it. As we're bouncing around the Atlantic now, I thought it'd be a great time to show you what the IFE is like. And here it is, a neck pillow supporting your own iPhone. So first off, you're going to need your earphone, which are provided. Come on this little packet here. We'll get them open in a sec. Here we are, standard Airline adapter and little slightly in-ear headphones there. So I've got my right and my left in now. They're not that uncomfortable yet, just put them in. They're fairly soft, they're zero cancellation as you might expect. So I can still hear myself speaking perfectly fine and I can hear all the ambient noise of the aircraft. Let's get a look what's on the screenshot. Actually, it's pretty poor. Low screen resolution, glitchy touchscreen, and it's quite difficult to use. Content-wise, there was enough to occupy me for the 9-hour flight, including well-being, a decent movie selection, some games and a kids selection too. For the most part though, I watched the moving map and the external cameras. I was grateful for the very tilty screen though when the seat in front of me did recline. For most of the flight, the cabin was fairly dark and looked a little bit like this. I've made my way to the back of the aircraft where there's 4 toilets for economy passengers. As you can see, the floor space is fairly tight, but there is a full-sized sink which is nice, and then the usual tissues, baby change facilities, etc. When I came out of the loo, I couldn't move for crew. Turns out when they saw my girlfriend and I go to the rear toilets, they thought we were up to no good. So we're searching the toilet for both of us. Let's take a look at those Wi-Fi options. You've got a €9 messaging option, right up to a €29 premium option. I did try and buy the messaging plan, but I couldn't get the site to work and take payment. Just a comment on where we're sitting then, we're in row 31, which is just behind the wing. As you can see, you get a cracking view of the sweep of the wing. It's just like there's not even a single straight line on there. That's 3D aerodynamics in action. You also get a cracking view of that engine there. You can see that GENX with those serrations at the back of it. Pretty good spot to sit, I think. I would recommend it. The only snacks for economy passengers were these tiny chocolates. Nice, but really not enough. Second service came out with 2 hours to run. Honestly, I wish they hadn't bothered. The yogurt was okay, the Kit Kat I managed to lose, and the sandwich might have been the driest thing I've ever put in my mouth. A weighty, stodgy sandwich wasn't what I needed 7 hours in. Would you have eaten it? Let me know in the comments. Amazingly on this flight, they don't like to leave a tray on your table, so they started that with 2 hours to run. 10 minutes later they were already coming around clearing trays whilst people were still struggling to finish in time, so pretty quick. You're expected to eat fairly punctually on a Lufthansa flight. Not a bad thing really, but another 5 or so minutes would have been quite nice just to help you digest it a little bit more slowly. As I pop to the middle loos, here you can look at the smaller economy cabin. Note the real lack of windows, definitely an area of the plane to avoid. Time to take a good look at the seat that we're in, and it's a sizable safety card for the world's longest passenger jet. What are my thoughts on the seat overall? Well, it's a seat I've not seen on other airlines. Fairly tall seat. The screen's fairly small. Does adjust a fairly reasonable amount, but it's really not very interactive, doesn't flow very well. Certainly doesn't feel like it's a modern screen for the type of aircraft that it's on. This aircraft's what, 10, 12 years old I would imagine. It's quite an old style of monitor. Certainly not HD as far as I can tell. Be nice to see an upgrade soon. Coat looks handy, you can hang your neck pillow on there. Kind of like the space here with your AirPods in. I like this is handy, although it's a bit of a pain in the backside when you've got this and then your meal comes down, you've got to try and flip it down with one hand and then open the next bit up. Another pet hate of the seat, and this is probably me just being pedantic now, when you open it up like this, don't like the big space here. There's a really tiny ridge, but I always feel like things are going to fall off, especially if you've got your drink, maybe like a second drink, like a can of beer or a mini bottle of wine or whatever. It'd be nice if it was a little bit further back. It'll also give you a little bit more space here. I'm not the smallest guy, I'm not the biggest guy, but it's fairly close to my stomach. So 2x3 seats on the plug socket, which is, yeah, absolutely fine. I had some weird things happen with it though. I've got a universal charger with me, and that didn't work with a British plug, but it did work with a European plug. And then about halfway through charging my phone, it stopped working, and then it did work with the British plug and then not with the European plug, so I don't know what's going on there. One of the handy things in the seat, if I just bring this down, see on the edge of the armrest here is where you plug your headphones in, and on this one here, if I move someone's shoulder out of the way, so there's a USB and an Ethernet port too. Ethernet port, who still has that on a flight? Kind of just shows the age of the seat really. But the USB port did work to charge things up. In terms of what's up top, there's no air vents. There's a fixed no smoking sign, which obviously no one bothers with that anymore. And yeah, there's a reading light. Everyone's got a reading light. Bit of a pet peeve around this, it's right where your elbow goes. So you can see on here, if you work from the bottom here, you've got cabin crew call button, disable cabin crew call button, the reading light, which everyone seems to turn on and off as soon as we got on the flight, and then you've got this which will bring up a moving map, and this one which will take you to the home screen, volume and channel buttons. All in all, the seat's pretty good. Oh, there's the headrest as well, I forgot to mention that. It goes up a fairway, goes down a fairway. Got these nice, really rigid ears actually, so you can't really move your head around too much. I had a good sleep earlier just on this. And the recline's decent. I'm in recline mode now. It goes back a good couple of inches. A couple of people kicked off different parts of the plane because people were reclining. Understandably, when you're in a seat that doesn't recline, like one of the exit rows or one where the galley is, if you are reclining and they're doing a meal service, or the first meal service, the crew will wake you up to put your seat back up, just so that the person sitting behind you can eat the meal at a flat angle rather than a jaunty one. Yeah, the window blinds have been closed to most of the flight, not by order of the crew or anything, more everyone was just knackered. I think a lot of people like us were on a connecting flight from elsewhere in Europe, so this left Frankfurt due to leave at 10:45 in the morning. So people have been up crack of dawn. We've been up since 2 AM UK time. So everyone was just really tired. So once the first meal service was completed 90-ish minutes into the flight, everyone just dozed off, and it's been like that pretty much all the way until the second meal service. It was just common courtesy, everyone had the window blinds down. It wasn't an enforced thing. I cracked it open a couple of times to have a look outside, but it soon got really bright in the cabin once you cracked it open, so it just felt like the right thing to do to close it. I mean, there's not a great deal to see over the mid-Atlantic. It's just sea and mainly clouds actually today. So I don't think I missed too much out of the window. So if I just zoom out a little bit there. Got this window, we've got one here too. Fairly fortunate. See on there now where we are. About to go over the Bahamas. 55 minutes to run 383 miles. As we start our approach and landing now, let's sum up the flight. I booked this flight as part of a London to Lima return trip, with Heathrow, Frankfurt, Miami under Lufthansa and an onward connection to Lima through LATAM. I paid £566 for the return flight, and at a cost per mile attribution, that means this flight cost me only £173. I think that's quite a reasonable cash fare, and that includes bags too. Could I recommend Lufthansa though? Yes and no. The crew were certainly not the friendliest that I've had. They were absent for most of the flight and certainly didn't seem too interested in the economy cabin. The seat was outdated and the IFE was poor, and the food left a lot to be desired. Sure, it was great to fly on a 747, but for most people, looking at the onboard experience, this was certainly mediocre at best. If the price is the deciding factor, sure, I'd take Lufthansa again. However, if a rival airline was a little bit more expensive, I'd probably try them. Hopefully Lufthansa can address some of these issues and sort them out ahead of their new hard products launching on their A350s coming later this year. Thanks for coming along with me today and listening to my thoughts and sharing this experience. There is plenty more to come on the channel, including United Airlines 767 and 777, and we've also got some BA flights to Singapore and Japan. That's it for this one. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.